The NBA is back. Let's go. Round of applause. NBA.
Hey,
Tonight, we have
hey.
NBA games that are not preseason. That not that preseason doesn't matter. You know, I love watching any kind of basketball, but man, it's different tonight. And some good games too. I will say, man, the slate, you can see it right here. Sixers, Celtics, Lakers, Warriors. I hope Lakers Warriors is a good game. Um, we'll talk about these. We'll go through the lineups real quick, just a little preview of what this is going to look like. We are going to be doing these NBA prop videos. We're going to try to do them daily. Daily, looking at the upcoming slate. We're going to shoot for 2 o'clock Eastern time daily for the upcoming night slate. Just going over all the props. We're going to be looking at all the underdog lines and talking about our favorite props, our favorite plays. And yeah, it's gonna be a good time. So we'll start off here. Let's just get right into it. We're gonna look off. We're gonna pull the props up in a second, but real quick, I want to set the tone by looking at the lineups for the games tonight. You know, injuries are a huge part of NBA. That'll be a huge part deeper into the season. We'll get more like injuries that impact props and lines and everything, rotations, minutes. But it's looking pretty. I mean, we kind of know what's happening right in these games for the most part. Sixers, Boston, there's no big surprises, right? Sixers, that's 100% straightforward. We know what's going on there. For the Celtics, we knew this. Robert Williams is out. Obviously, Gallinari out as well. And Brogdon, who I know is on the injury report, he's been removed, so he's all set and looks good to go. So pretty straightforward what we expect out of this one. Total is 216. 3-point spread for Boston at home. Then over here, Lakers, Warriors. This one, Lakers, usually a lengthier injury report. Just typically, that's just a Lakers thing with their guys. But LeBron and AD both should play. Russell Westbrook as well. I know they're down there and they may not play. I'm expecting all three of those guys to play. As far as the lineup goes, it sounds like Russell Westbrook will be, a second unit rotational guy, which I think makes sense and is kind of interesting for kind of how he works alongside, LeBron and AD specifically. But yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, I know this is the expected lineup. I don't want to like give any takes or anything. Like I think this is probably what I would guess, but it wouldn't surprise me if, we see something different even, next game or the next couple of games. There's a couple of guys that can kind of fit into those kind of like 1 through 3 slots. I do expect it to be Bev and Walker. And I like Reeves. I think it makes sense for Reeves to start and play. He's looked pretty good. But yeah, that's what the lineup looks like for Golden State. Pretty straightforward. I think what we kind of expected. I think the more interesting things for Golden State are probably the players who are healthy now, who haven't been in the past, and we've got to see in the preseason a little bit. But Iguodala, only guy who's out tonight. Iguodala. So pretty straightforward. I think, this one's a little bit of a bigger spread. Obviously, this is in Golden State as well. 7-point spread. It's the Lakers, who are healthy. That's kind of the one saving grace. But, man, this is probably the one I'm more afraid of being a potential kind of blowout. But I have hope that this one will stay close. But with all that being said, let's start off with the Sixers Celtics. I guess, let's get right into it. So right here, as you can see on the screen, pulling up the player props here. This is going to show not just the underdog line, which we'll be looking at, right? So you'll kind of get to see here, PJ Tucker points, for example, 5.5 here on the underdog line. It'll show what other books have the line set at, but not just the line, but obviously, the odds associated with that line, we'll get to kind of use that as a comparison tool, just kind of finding value. I like kind of looking at these comparatively. So we'll use that as we're looking at underdog lines. I want to get right into it. Let's just start with the big boys in this game. So I think Tatum is a big boy I want to talk about. Got to scroll down a little bit name wise, but he's at 23.5, where I know this seems like a pretty low line from what we not just saw in the playoffs, but even last season, even in games with Jaylen Brown, he was closer to, I want to say like a 25-26 is where they were at. And then obviously Tatum had a stretch where his lines were like 28, 29, and in the playoffs as well, obviously had some pretty big stretches there. You like Tatum? It definitely is a tougher matchup. The Sixers are definitely a stronger team defensively. Do you like Tatum tonight?
I do. I like Tatum at 23.5. My only concern would be if PJ Tucker just shadows him the whole game, or at least to start the game.
Mm.
I think it helps that it's in Boston, honestly.
Yeah.
Kind of get the season starting in Boston. I like 23.5. I think mid-season we would be begging for this line. Philly,
Right.
though, good defensive team. But yeah, if it was Toby kind of guarding him, I'd be like, smash this 23.5. But because it's PJ Tucker,
Yeah.
a little bit more scary, but I still think 23.5 is a very nice line for Tatum
Hmm.
to go over on. So I like Tatum 23.5 a lot more than some of these other lines. There's another line that I like that we'll get to in a little bit, but
Yeah. Yeah. I guess
I feel
just
pretty good about it.
yeah. No, I like Tatum. I think it's kind of tough like these first games, and obviously for guys like Tatum and Embiid, who we kind of know what we're gonna get. But I guess for kind of any player, we don't have a lot to go off of, because you don't want to read too much into like preseason stuff, right? So like you're kind of looking at the end of last season, the playoffs for some of these guys as far as like what they looked like or, historic. But yeah, I think it's kind of one thing I want to talk about, and we'll kind of flip over to the Sixers side for points and kind of go to their big boy. But Joel Embiid,
Yep.
who historically, I mean, this line looks pretty good, for Embiid and what he's, kind of done consistently over the past couple seasons, even at the 27.5 line. He really has kind of struggled, and struggled in quotation marks, right? Because he's still, puts up decent scoring games, but he's definitely
Mhm.
had lower scoring games against Horford,
Mhm.
who plays him really well. And, we talked about it previously. Horford's like a pretty smart defender. I know that's kind of like a big concern with like guys getting into foul trouble and everything. Horford's a pretty
Yeah.
smart defender, pretty savvy. Embiid, who's historically a 26-point guy, against Horford in his career, 22.6, through 11 games. Still
Yep.
strong rebounding, 13.6. Pretty strong assists, we'll talk about later, 4.2. But I'm not in love with Embiid points tonight just with that. And I think Sixers too. I know the Celtics are strong defensively across the board, but I think it would not surprise me if, Tyrese Maxey has a really good game. Harden has a pretty good scoring game, maybe even Toby. So I don't think the Sixers need Embiid to score 28 to win this game. I think they do have other
Yeah.
options. So I'm not in love with this line, but I usually would really like it.
Yeah, no, I don't like this line a lot at all. Like you said, I would normally like it too, but yeah, against Horford, he's only covered this twice in his career. One of those times was when he went to the line 21 times. And like you said, Horford's a smart defender. He's probably going to be on the court more than usual because of no Robert Williams. So I really like other lines with him, like rebounds, assists, individually or combined. I just think that's a smarter play than the points.
Yeah.
Would we be shocked if Embiid has 30 and shoots the ball 18 times, goes to the line 10 times? Not really,
Right.
but I think there's a safer play around here than the points play.
Yeah, and I like you had mentioned too. I think that's why we'll talk about with some of his other peripheral lines that we like more than playing an Embiid under, because I just can't feel comfortable. Even historically, I look at the data and I go, hey, he's not hit this consistently against Horford. It's like, how am I going to take Embiid, to not be able to put up 27, 28 points, right? Like the
Yeah.
usage could just be there. He could have a pretty bad efficiency night and just get there, like you said, because he got to the line 12 times, just because that's what Embiid
Yep.
does. So
Yep.
it's tough to play the unders, even though I don't like it. It's more of a fade for me, and playing some of his peripherals that I like a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
I'll throw it over to you. Is there a points line on the board, just anywhere that you really especially like?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Harden, 19.5 on underdog. I'm sticking with that flag that I've been planting about Harden shooting more. Maybe he doesn't come out of the gate super hot, but he's hit this line every single time in the last 6 years against the Celtics. Granted, none of those games were with Philly, but I do think
Mm.
he is a bit more aggressive this year. And 19.5 is just, it's very doable for Harden to get 20 points. He doesn't have to shoot a ton to cover this line. He's covered this line like I said, every time in the last 6 years, and a lot of those times were when he did only shoot it 13 to 15 times. So if he can, shoot the ball 15 to 17 times, I think he covers this. Obviously, the free throws, again, another guy that can cover this without a bad shooting night, getting to the line. There's a lot of weapons there. Maxi breakout potentially continuing his hot streak from last season. Harden, obviously, Embiid. There's a lot of weapons there. Toby. But I think Harden will be the difference maker in this matchup specifically anyway. And I think 19.5 is a very doable line. Whether
Yeah.
he wants to be more aggressive or not, I think he can still cover it.
Yeah, and I think the lines reflect this a little bit, but it's a lower total. First game
Yep.
of the season, and both these teams really strong defensively. Kind of
Yep.
across the board for the most part, right? I mean, we're talking about Harden, strong defensively doesn't really like, those two phrases don't go together super well. But you just look 1 through 5 for both these teams, even without Robert Williams, Celtics are very, very strong across the board defensively. And same with the Sixers too, especially even before bringing in PJ Tucker. And then now you have Tucker alongside, a lot of the other guys who've been strong over the past couple seasons. So I think that's kind of reflected in a lot of these lines. And, I will say I do like the Harden line, and we'll see. You can kind of see here, even for Maxey, who we'll talk about here, is a guy who I like a lot this season. But you see on Underdog, he's, his line's at 18.5. And, I do like that line if I was taking it somewhere, but, it's 17.5 on other books. I don't know if I'm like in love with the value. I think there's a couple other lines on some peripherals that we'll talk about. But man, we're seeing just to mention this, the Maxey Tobias Harris discrepancy, right? 17 to 18.5 for Maxey versus 13.5 for Tobias Harris. I think it's something that makes sense, right? From what the writing's on the wall, right? Last season, the preseason as well, Maxey's shown out. I think it just kind of makes sense. Is any part of you like that Harris line just because of the value it provides? Or are you just still, hey, I don't think I can count on Harris to be a consistent scorer enough to get that?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of just not counting on his usage. I don't
Yeah.
hate the line. Like I think he can be a solid scorer. I just don't know how much he's going to be able to shoot this game.
Yeah.
And it's kind of contradicting for me to think that he shoots more than we think, and also think that Harden shoots more than we think, and also
You're right.
think that Maxey breaks out. Right, something's got to give. I think it's going to be Harris. Obviously, PJ Tucker's not going to be an offensive force, so
Right.
it's between those four. And the one person that I'll have to kick the bucket on is Toby.
Right. The value is there, right, on the books, but I agree. I think if you're looking at usage, I think what would surprise me the most is if, Tobias Harris has like a super high scoring game. Like if Maxey's a 20 plus, if Harden's 25 plus, if Embiid's 30 plus, that doesn't surprise me. I think Tobias being up there would kind of, I don't want to say shock me because he has it in him, right? Like we saw it last season, but I think the writing's on the wall as far as the offensive usage.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I mean, kind of sorting it out in your head, if you think Embiid's going to go under, and Maxey's going to go over, and Harden's going to go over, Toby's going to go under, it kind of gives
Right.
towards that total, right? Where
And
if
it's a
Embiid's
lower
under,
total.
make up for it. Yeah, no, it's by no means a high total. And the other thing he's got to think of is it's opening night, so offenses
Yeah.
can look a little strange. The shot might be off a little. You got to get warmed up.
Yeah.
So the offense might just overall take a little bit more of a hit than like the defense. The defense should be there because defense is more innate
Right.
than having the muscle memory of a jump shot for 82 games. So
Yeah.
the offense might be slow for opening night for the first week of the season. Just remember that.
Yeah. And one guy I do want to mention here. I like him elsewhere, but I think he's worth mentioning here. It's Al Horford at 9.5 points. I think you look at the guys, that are kind of going to play that role. We talked about he's going to need to be on the floor, against Embiid, just because defensively, right? I mean, it's like it's Grant Williams, it's Blake Griffin, it's Sam Hauser. It's like not guys who you want to be guarding Embiid, right? Like I don't want those guys on him. And whatever, say what you will about, Blake Griffin's had his moments. I think you look at historically. Oh yeah, I think like Grant Williams or whatever. I think you just look at Embiid, and historically too. I think it makes a ton of sense for Horford to play big minutes in this one. I know there was reports, right, that was like Horford's going to play fewer minutes. He's going to rest back to backs. I really think that he will play definitely in this first game out of necessity for what the Celtics have to kind of play without Robert Williams, right? I think that was the big ticket. If Robert Williams is in, I feel like, okay, maybe Horford isn't a strong part of the, minutes rotation, but I just don't see that being a possibility. So I'll kind of flip over here to assists and keep talking about Horford because I like this line a ton.
Oh yeah.
Al Horford 2.5 assists. It's something we bet a decent amount in the playoffs and kind of towards the end of the season, especially with the Robert Williams injury. There was just you felt a lot more solidified in Horford's minutes and just overall usage, right? He, with Robert Williams last season, he was like a 10, 7.5 rebound, 3.2 assist guy. Without him, 11.3, 8.2, 3.9. So obviously just kind of that usage overall. I really like Horford over 2.5 assists. Yo, what's up, Renzi? Just got a class. What's up, fellas? What's up? How's it going? NBA's back. Yep. Feels good. But yeah, I think this is probably my favorite assist line, which I know seems kind of odd because there's a couple like assist guys I like. There's two more on the Sixers side I do like a decent amount. But is this your favorite assist line on the board, this Horford?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a good success rate of covering this against Embiid in his career. The last 2 games last year, he had 2 in each game, but that's because he played 17 minutes and 20 minutes respectively. Obviously, Robert Williams being there, and even like when Tice was there, off sheer minutes and usage, and like you said, necessity of him being on the court. Even if he played like 20 to 25 minutes, this would be a decent line, something to look out for. But the fact that he might have to play 30 minutes plus, I think this is a very, very nice line.
Yeah, and I do want to mention, because I think it's something worth saying, like that Brogdon is kind of a little bit of an X factor as far as the Celtics offense is concerned. I don't think he steps in and is like takes too much away from Tatum or Brown. I think they'll still get theirs. I think it's more Marcus Smart as far as, that kind of guard rotation and guard usage, what we see. But I think the thing with Horford is it's like, yes, you bring in a guy like Brogdon, who maybe is another bigger usage guy who kind of takes the ball. But Horford, his assists are not like he's a focal point of the offense. He just is naturally involved because he's going to play, 30, around 30-ish minutes. So I think it's one of those things where like, it doesn't matter to me too much who's on the floor. It's just that he just out of sheer minutes and being a part of the offense and not being a guy who he's very willing to pass. He's one of those guys who like will take the open three, who will, take a shot if it's pretty open, but he's not gonna, try to dominate offensively, right? He's very willing to look to a lot of scores around him, right? Because he's going to be playing with, Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart, Brogdon, and even guys off the bench. I mean, Derek White, Grant Williams, all these guys who are very willing to take those shots. So I think it's just a really, really good line.
Yeah, I mean, and on top of that, when you play against a good defensive center like Embiid and have a smart player like Horford, you're finding the right space to be on the floor to kind of move the ball around to get away from that defensive presence. So if he finds himself with the ball and he's going to beat on him, he's a smart player. He's going to find the open man or get someone else open or create some space rather than forcing a shot against a defensive player that you're getting. Right.
Definitely.
So,
and it's just really nice too. I know this sounds like you're kind of reaching when you're talking about these kind of things, but man, the Celtics, it is really nice that he very consistently especially without Robert Williams in the rotation, will be on the floor with a guy with like 1 through 4 guys who will shoot, threes, deeper shots, like very openly, right? I mean, all the way to Grant Williams, right? Tatum, Brown, Smart, Brogdon, all these guys are like willing to shoot. So yeah, Pritchard, Derek White, right? All those guys. So like he's not going to be on the court with guys who won't pull. Lowe's, I hate doing this, but man, I always need a second opinion. Devonte Adams and Christian Kirk for Debo and Higgins. Give me... you're asking the wrong fantasy flock guy, but I will say I probably lean Debo and Higgins just off of like fear that Kirk is what we've seen over the past couple weeks, which is just not as involved as we want him to be. We're big Kirk guys, but I think the Devonte Adams, I know had a bigger blow up game, but that was kind of like a couple long touchdowns. It's pretty close though. I think it's a clear 1, 2, 3, 4, if that makes sense. You're trading the 1 and the 4 for the 2 and the 3. But I think if you need to play both Higgins and Debo, that side, if you have strong options outside of Kirk, that side.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, back to Ball. I'm gonna throw over another assist line that I think is just one I have to mention. I know we talked about liking Harden points. I mean, Harden assists at 8.5. I think it's just always a line you have to like shout out, right? The value's on that side, right? It's every single book the over's favored. It's just to pick them on.
Yeah.
one book. It's just, I mean, that line, what we've seen from Harden, I think, even though we like him to be more aggressive offensively, the books are saying no, like they're setting his
Yeah.
line at 18 and a half, 19 and a half. So like, yes, we like him to be a pretty consistent 20-point guy, but it's just hard for me to believe that Harden scores 20 or less and isn't up there in assists, right? He's just gonna be involved. So it is a lower total. It is a tougher defensive matchup, and Embiid, right? We talked about maybe the Embiid scoring's not there. So there's things to shout out when
Yeah.
you're talking about not liking over 8.5, but it's just a good line for James Harden. So just
Yeah.
something I want to call out.
Yeah. Another assist line that I know you mentioned earlier, Embiid at 3 flat on underdog. I think that's a really good line against Horford. He's covered this in the last 4 games. He had 6 assists in both games against the Celtics last year, 6 assists and 4 assists in the years prior. So I mean, if you're scared of the points, but you still think he has the usage, I mean, I like this. I like this assist line a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think Embiid, we can come back to assists, but for Embiid specifically, I like assists a lot, and I also kind of like his rebounds and rebounds plus assists. So we're gonna get into rebounds next, but I'm not seeing this up, but I like both of these, the assist plus rebounds, but rebounds specifically, I wanted to pull up. There we go, bottom right. But yeah, I mean, rebounds too. I think it's just a pretty decent line. Underdog does have the highest line. I mean, I still kind of like it, but yeah, I mean, you're seeing it's a higher line on Underdog. So I would probably go somewhere like assists where that line is lower because I like both of these.
Yeah.
But
Or rebounds and assists if you can find that and grab that. That's
yeah,
at 13.5 on some places. So
yeah,
that gives you a little leeway, both areas, in that we like. We like the rebounds, we like the assists. And so if you're a little sketched out on the 3 flat line and you want to go, rebounds and assists, that's at 13.5 or 14.5. And I like both of those a lot.
yeah, definitely. All right, any of these rebound lines, I mean, we can come back to some of those assists, but any rebound lines jumping out to you?
PJ Tucker is interesting at 4.5. I think he's another guy that should probably just be on the floor a lot defensively. Being able to switch onto Brown and Tatum. Is the reason they brought him in, and so I think he could probably get the nod defensively a lot more with Tatum and Brown out there. And so just sheer usage and time, I think 4.5 rebounds for him is very interesting. Also in a game that we think is going to be defensive, lower scoring, possibly more misses.
I do think PJ is one of those guys where and we'll talk about this too, but he's these kind of like question mark players. Like I do agree that my brain says PJ Tucker plays decent minutes in this matchup, but we've been fooled before, man. I mean, I'm thinking about some of those Heat playoff games where they went with Strus and were playing other guys instead of PJ late. And this isn't a PJ specific thing, but it's just a new player, new team. That isn't a focal point, right? So obviously other guys who are a stronger point. I just think that the tough thing for me with a PJ line, and it's kind of called out here, right? The value is slightly leaning the under, exactly. But I think it's more of a pick on that line. But I would definitely say for PJ, my only worry is, first game Sixers. I do think he's, a heavy part of the rotation, but would not shock me if other guys get the nod, just because I do think they're like 5 to 7 deep is pretty strong. I think especially at that spot.
Yeah. And I think that the reason I like this line is because I think that concern is already baked into the line. I think Vegas already kind of has that concern in there with new situation, unsure about rotation and minutes. And so they kind of put them down at 4.5, but I think you can get some really good value if that thought process is correct, right? Where they're going to need to guard Tatum and Brown. And so if he is out on the court, I think it's a smash. But I think the reason I like it is low. It is scary, but I think it's already moved down because of that.
Yeah, that's fair. Sense? I agree. I think if I look at the box score and PJ Tucker has 30 minutes, has the starter minutes, I think I look over and he has 5+ rebounds. I mean, and they're a pretty strong rebounding team. Is kind of the only other thing, right? All the way from Embiid. Tobias Harris, who's another guy on here who's, I think, a pretty decent line for what you expect from him.
Yeah, it's true.
5.5.
I like that more than his points for sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And rebounds too. I mean, all these are a little random. I think rebounds are one of those that it's more of a minutes and what we've seen from them rebounding the ball than it is necessarily like a matchup or whatever. But yeah, I had Embiid at 10.5, bumped to 11. I don't know if I like it as much, but yeah, I mean, I think Embiid over 10, over 10.5, I think is really good. It's just a really good line. And
Oh yeah,
I mean, we've
I love
seen,
that.
hey, as far as like usage, right? I mean, we've got some like, hey, we need assists over points, but as far as rebounds are concerned, Embiid plays a full game. I think he's got a really, really good shot of hitting that. How
Is
much you love rebound props? I love that. I hate rebound props for kind of like the middling question mark players, but I think like I'm still not blind to good value, and Embiid over 10.5 is like, I mean, it's just a good line.
does any part
Yeah,
of
look at
like
this.
as far as Toby and PJ Tucker go for rebound props? How much does the impact the fact that Al Horford might be stretching the court, going out to the 3-point line to shoot threes, which we know he can do very efficiently, to get Embiid away from under the baskets, and
Hmm.
away from the basket. That's more maybe possible rebounds for Tucker and Toby, because of that, and with Horford wanting to stretch the floor to kind of help the offense more. Like, does that kind of play into anything, or is that just like, yeah, it's a cute theory, but I'm gonna go with the guy that can gets
Yeah, no, I think it's like, especially for rebounding, right? Obviously, you don't want to like tell yourself stories too much, but I think those little things are impactful. So I think, yeah, and I think for good lines, right? Like if Toby is what we're expecting, I think those are good lines with what you had mentioned for sure. What's up, Larry? Ben Mathurin is rookie of the year. I'm a big Ben Mathurin guy.
yeah, I do like
I love that he he hasn't gotten a ton of buzz, as far as like, I feel like rookie buzz and everything. I feel like it pushed Jaden Ivey up drafts. It pushed Ben Caro, those guys
crazy.
specifically. Yeah, for sure. And I think Ben Mathurin's one of those guys who's like looked amazing, and
Mhm.
is because he like is with the second unit and is more of a rotational, but he's playing like the minutes that the starters are playing. So I just think he's just going to be really good for a team that could use a guy like Ben Mathurin.
Yeah.
We've got some hot takes. Leads all rookies in scoring, 19.8 points a game. He's a dog. He's super. Oh, I agree 100%. I think
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited for a lot of these rookies. The tough thing for me, obviously, we're NBA fantasy for the most part, is rookies typically take a longer time to kind of have that impact. So it's really
Yeah.
tough to like push those guys up too far. But I think as far as upside goes, All-Star break, I would not shock me if we're looking at Mathurin as like an absolute steal, and in the real draft and the fantasy drafts.
Yeah.
Like Harden rebounds or assists. Oh, rebounds are at 5.5. Yeah, that's amazing at that line. I like both. I tend to like lean his assists. Rebounds might not be a bad call if you like these rebound lines. We talked about it. These first games in these low totals, good defensive teams who both are like willing to shoot threes, right? We talked about it for the Sixers. A ton of guys that shoot threes, really good for rebounds, just because of their percentage. And then on the Celtics side too, I mean, 1 through 5, they'll shoot threes,
Yeah,
all the way down to Horford.
the more we talk about Harden, I'm really liking his PRA. I mean, I like his points. I'm liking the looks in
Yeah.
the rebound line,
Yeah,
and
those
then
are
the assists
correlated.
you can never scoff at. So, like 34.5 PRA and underdog, that's nice. Even 33.5, 34.5, 35. I don't care. Like it's a beautiful like if you
Right.
like the points line, if you like the rebounds line, you like the assist line, it's a beautiful marriage of like, let him explode somewhere, and maybe just meet or fall short by one on the other ones, and you're still fine. Cover the PRA. So I
Yeah.
do like his PRA a lot.
Yeah, he's a underrated stat. I don't even know if I would say underrated. That's probably not the right take. I mean, he's a stat sheet filler.
Oh yeah,
32. There's some, there's 32.5. Yeah. And I think too, like, I mean, the PRA, even going up to 34.5, like it's one of those lines that like, even at the highest line, I still like the over, like I wouldn't be like, oh, it's higher. So like, you can sneak in the under. Cause I do like Harden a decent amount. Like that points like we had talked about. PRA, another guy we like some of his peripherals. Al Horford at 19.5 and 20.5.
Yep.
Even at the 20.5 line, it's a pick 'em on books. Obviously, the value's on the over for the 19.5. I like his points. I like him to play big minutes. I like his rebounds. Just kind of looking at the minutes he's going to see, and we like assists too. I definitely lean assists, just because Horford's one of those guys who can get you a 6, 8, and 4 game, where you're like just missing because he didn't do a lot offensively scoring. So I think that's why I lean assists.
Yeah, I think kind of piggybacking off what you're saying there, I think I'd go assists over PRA just because I think no matter how you slice it, the assist is kind of the tip of the cap, the cherry on top to kind of get him to that PRA, right? And so if his PRA hits, I think it's because his assist hit, kind of tip it over. So you might go assists.
Yeah, and I mean, like we had said, without Robert Williams, he's been right at where his PRA line is, just with points and rebounds. But with that being said, like you do have to factor in, the matchup and the game and the Celtics, what they look like versus what they looked like last year without Robert Williams in those games. Excuse me.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah, just getting choked up. NBA's back, baby. Let's before we transition to the other game here, let's take a peek at some of these kind of like peripheral lines, right? So,
threes.
Yeah, we got player made threes here. There's only a couple guys up here on Underdog. I mean, honestly, the guys that are up here are like the guys I would look to play, over or under, just because. You won't catch me playing some of these like really low volume 3-point shooters that are kind of question marks. Yeah, PJ Tucker's so funny, and I'm just gonna mention this for a second. I know it's not an Underdog, right? I mean, I would play PJ Tucker threes instead of his like 4.5 points.
Okay,
for him to hit a three, it's just
It's either, I guess, it's a steal into a bucket or it's a corner.
He is not scoring 6 points off of three shots that aren't corner threes. And two, like I mentioned this for Harden assists. I don't know if we talked about it, and Harden's still up here, so I can finish out here. But man, like this Sixers team, you just add a guy like PJ Tucker, who it's like, look at the stats. While one of the best corner three guys from a percentage standpoint, and that's just like that's what they got him for, right? 3 and D. And what better guy to like be paired with than a James Harden, who like gets everybody open shots, man. Cork
you played with before for several years in Houston,
right? Yeah, exactly. So I think that's one of the reasons that I do like Harden assists, and I probably will like it a lot this season, especially if it kind of stays around this 8.5 line. I don't think it's a smash, just because I do think this is a lower scoring, lower total. That's probably why I lean more towards some of these lower points, as far as the overs versus like the Embiids of the world. But yeah, any of these other threes, you've got Harden at 2 flat. It's tough, right? The value isn't actually there. If you just kind of look at what the 2.5 lines look like, it ends up kind of being more of a wash as far as him hitting 2. But do you like that as somebody who is a fan of Harden points?
Yeah, I do like his. I like it because it's 2 flat. I like how safe that is. I think 2
if it's in a 3 pick or something.
Yeah, I think 2 is a very safe line, and I think there's a much better chance of upside of 3 than there is the fact that he only has 1. So I'll take the safety blanket of 2 with the more likely upside of 3 than the downside of having.
Yeah, I think the only other thing you have to mention, and I don't want to get too down in it, it's just the matchup. I mean, the Celtics just across the board, very strong switching team. And are just like, but still Harden, he's just special. Like he'll take the threes, even in his even in his lowest like offensive shooting games, he still was taking a couple step back threes a game, even in his lowest one. So
right. I still like the points more just because of the free throw aspect. But I don't hate the points or the threes.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about Tatum threes who shot a decent amount. He had some pretty big like 3-point shooting games deeper into the playoffs. Are you worried about is it a matchup thing for you?
Yeah, it's a matchup thing. It's also like first game of the year thing. Is he really gonna come out and shoot 3 for 8 from 3 against the Sixers with PJ Tucker all over him? He does struggle a lot with Tucker. I think I might.
I do think the volume will be there, but I think it is a question of like how worried you are about. I'm
a little worried about that line. I think Yeah,
Yep.
I'm getting a little bit more worried about the points line the more I think about it. I might end
For
up
Tatum.
fading Tatum. Yeah, I might end
Yeah.
up fading him, but
He's going to be a
23.
popular
No
pick.
one's
I really do think. I mean, you just look at what he did. Even I know the playoffs, people's memories are pretty bad of Tatum, but I mean, what he did last season, it's just such a good line. I think he'll be a popular pick. But I agree. I think it's just going to be a lower scoring game, and we are people who love overs. We
Yeah.
are over. I will. I mean, we'll go back to this. We were. I was just looking at it the other day. I was talking to somebody about it. We were right around 58% hit rate, and I
Yeah.
want to say we were like 90+% over betters.
Hmm.
For many reasons. One, it's more fun. Okay, it's more fun to bet an
Yeah.
over. Let's just say that. Get
Yeah.
that out of the way. Two, I think it's
Yeah.
easier to find over values than under values, in my opinion. It's just because a lot of the books, it's easier to find value that way and feel a lot better about a player hitting an over. And you can avoid, right? Like, you don't have to bet everything. So, like, yes, there's blowouts, but for a lot of times you can avoid situations like that. I don't anticipate this game being a blowout. A little
No.
preview. We might be talking about a scarier game. I don't think it's a blowout potential game, but definitely scarier. But yeah, let's any last words on this game in general before actually let's do this. Give me your let's give our two favorite from this game.
Okay.
I can
Um,
go first while you're thinking about. I know it's one we both liked a decent amount, so this will, maybe buy you some time. But there were
got
a
mine.
couple. There were a couple we liked. Assists. I really like Horford assists. I know
Yeah.
it's not one of those that like looks like it's screaming value if you look at some of the other sportsbook odds. But for me, with just what I anticipate this game looking like, Horford minutes, what we've seen from him without Robert Williams too. I just think the Celtics have no choice but to play him big minutes, and I think he can easily get 3 assists. So I like
Yeah.
Horford assists. Do you have another one you like?
Yeah, I mean, I like Embiid assists. I like Embiid assists, so both a
Yeah.
big man assists. And then I'm gonna continue to plant my flag. I really like Harden points.
Yeah.
I know that's probably a polarizing pick, but I'm gonna ride or die with it.
I know I do want to call out Embiid assists. Yo, what's up, Jeremy? I know we talked about it a little bit, but it's a nod to the matchup. And Embiid historically has had higher assist numbers and lower scoring numbers against Horford. And
Yep.
I know Horford doesn't feel like one of those like lockdown but he has been. He kind of
He's a
has
great
been.
defender. He's a fantastic
He's
defender.
he's amazing. Yeah, I think he's like very very underrated as one of those like high end big defenders, right? Everyone loves to think about like Robert Williams as like that. Hey, like big man, block shots, crazy down low. But Horford is he's just strong. He's savvy too, smart. He doesn't give ticky tack, easy free throw attempts that guys like Embiid really fiend off of. I'm not saying Embiid
Yeah.
won't get to the line. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then Harden points, like you had mentioned. Obviously it's 19.5 on Underdog, 18.5 on some other books too. I like both of them. So closer to a pick 'em on some of these books at 19.5. I just think it's a good line for him. But yeah, let's get into the next game here. We're going to be talking about the Lakers Warriors. I'm going to refresh here just to make sure now that this is updated. But yeah, this is it's an interesting game. I don't think it's a blowout potential game. I think you have to call out it's Golden State at home. They're one of the I think they are the best team at home. I don't even want to say one of the best teams, just historically over the past couple seasons they've been amazing at home. And the Lakers are healthier, but once again, Lakers dealt with weird new rotations all last season due to injury. They're doing it again, and I know they're healthy for the most part, but it's Patrick Beverley's a part of it. Russell Westbrook's with the second unit potentially. Yes, AD and LeBron are healthy, but it's a little scary. I'm definitely more afraid of this game being a blowout than the first one. But I still think there's some good plays in this one. So we'll just kick it off. Let's go to the big man here, the Finals MVP, Steph Curry.
Yep.
23.5 on Underdog. I will say, I know people like to give Pat Bev the lockdown defender kind of like ticket card, and he's a very strong defender, but Steph has not historically had issues with playing against Patrick Beverley. Like, it's just not something we've seen if you just kind of look at previous games. Against Pat Bev, he's like 25, 6-4, which is like right around where Steph is typically. And I think they only played once last season, and Steph had 34. And it wasn't like super efficient scoring, but the volume was there, and he had 35, 5-4 in that game. So Steph is going to do Steph things. With that being said, the reports that Steve Kerr has said that the starters, might not play, their typical full minutes due to conditioning. How much are you baking that into the props in game?
I probably won't take that much into account. I'm taking more into account that the fact that the Warriors run away with this at home. I think it will be closer though. I'm always worried about it because it's at Golden State, but I actually do kind of like to stay close if everybody can stay healthy.
You've got LeBron and AD. LeBron specifically, they're doing the ceremony thing, right? They do that in the opener. They've got to be in the building for that. It's I'm not a big narrative guy.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that narrative.
LeBron, is he still? I still got that dog in him. No, I think it'll be. I don't think it's on blowout potential, right? So we kind of do these for these prop games where we have games where we're avoiding a lot because we're afraid of a blowout. But I just think you have to mention it for the Lakers, who have not been great. And yes, there's been a lot of injuries, but there still is, right? Not significant guys, but Schroeder's out and a couple of those guys. And then obviously just the rotation is not as exciting. But Steph, I think it's a good line for Steph. 23.5. I think it just feels fair. I don't think I love it either way. I just feel like it just feels like, I'd probably have Steph's line around 24 if I was setting the lines for books,
Yeah, I'm not in love with too many of these points lines. I kind of like Anthony Davis the most. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah. Just like the matchup the most. Right. I think he can exploit that matchup the best. LeBron with Draymond or Wiggins on him, low key kind of scares me. Just because also it's 26.5. The thing that scares me about LeBron is he's either gonna do like a 20-point 10-assist game or he's gonna have like a 35-point game, and it's just. It's too inconsistent for me at this line at 26.5. I'd much rather go AD, who should exploit that defensive matchup, and he's obviously a very talented offensive player.
Yeah, and I do think that you have to call out that last season LeBron's scoring numbers were insane, right? So this number looks more appealing, but a ton of that was without Anthony Davis, and historically he's been a better assist guy with AD, and it just makes sense, right? There's just another focal point of the offense. So I think that's kind of why the LeBron is more of a fade, especially on Underdog here at the 26.5 versus some of the other books. I do like AD. I know it's higher on the Underdog. We kind of agree with Underdog here with the there's a little less value on AD because I do like it a little bit more. Any of these other more secondary players? You got Clay at 15.5, which is just Clay is just a nightmare to place props on it, game in and game out, just because the nature of Clay's game, right? Is he 2 for 10 or is he 6 for 11, right? Like which Clay do you get? And it's the first game of the season too, and yes, it's Golden State at home, and yes, Clay is healthy, but I don't know.
Yeah, I like Jordan Poole more than Clay. For the fact that, one, I think he is a bit more consistent in his scoring lately from the tail end of last season heading into this season. And also, if there is any chance this is a blowout, I think Poole benefits most out of those two players in minutes. And if anybody's about that money narrative, there you go.
Yeah, he got paid. Yeah, he's got a chip on his chin.
Yeah, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got a black eye, and the guy did it. I was trying to do the he's got something on his face because Draymond punched him a bit, but I do like Poole. It is a higher line. At 17.5, but the value's there. A little scary, but I still like it more than Clay. I think I like it just as much as
it's more comparative. I don't think I want to play any of these points lines for Golden State. Just because even Wiggins too, I mean, yeah, it's another one of those like, which Wiggins are we going to get, right? Because yes, people will remember the monster games we saw at the tail end of the playoffs, but we've seen stretches from Wiggins like that before, and a lot of times it has to do with like how much is Wiggins going to be asked to do when Clay is healthy and Jordan Poole is more involved, and you have Steph Curry, the greatest shooter in the world, on your team. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, it's kind of reflected, right? These like 15, 15, 18. I'm not going to take my pick of which of those guys hits the over. I'm probably just going to fade. But we'll head over to assists, and I'm going to get Klay Thompson out of here because I don't want to talk about Klay Thompson assists. I don't care how low it is. It's terrifying. Any of these assist numbers, interest you?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Scroll all the way down to the bottom. That's my favorite. I love the LeBron at 5.5 and at 6. Like you said, I think with him and AD being the only two guys on the court, with Russ being on that second unit, I think that'll help both LeBron, AD, and Russ. I actually really like the decision from Ham to do that. So I think LeBron with AD there, I think he can easily get 6 or more assists. Because I mean, Pat Bev's never really been a huge like primary facilitator. He's there for the defense. He's there for the energy. I think LeBron will still end up bringing the ball up the court here and there. And then even if he's not, he's going to touch the ball every time on offense and get the ball to the right person. And so I really like him at 6 assists.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is AD being there. I really wish, I guess the nice thing for LeBron assists from a betting standpoint is, especially if Westbrook is in that second rotation, he's with guys who will shoot. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Lonnie Walker, Reeves, and Pat Bev are like the greatest 3-point shooters for LeBron to be paired with. I think from a team standpoint, far from it, yeah. I think from a team standpoint, I wish LeBron was with better shooters, just because, man, these lines would be so great if he just had like who's a random good, like a Bogdanovich or something, just on the floor with them. Yeah, man, they could have had him. But yeah, I just think, I think he's with guys who will shoot, and I think the big thing for me is AD, right? That's the big ticket. It's not who he's on the floor with outside of Anthony Davis is healthy for the time being. I know we've got the Anthony Davis thumbnail. That was a decision because we're able to use it because he's healthy and playing tonight. So, I think from an assist standpoint, LeBron is interesting. Draymond is interesting. I don't love it, but I like it more than fans. Yeah, I like it more than a lot of his other lines for sure. Yeah, Draymond is one of those tough to bet elsewhere guys. Any of these rebounds are always interesting, especially against Golden State, just because night in and night out they shoot so many threes that your threes, I know we mentioned for rebounds, they're just good rebound opportunities just from the perspective of, they're typically faster paced as far as shots. The percentage obviously is worse. So from a betting standpoint, there's just more opportunities for rebounds. Any rebounds you're kind of peeking at jump out to you?
Yeah, I like AD at 8.5 again. I like a good game out of Anthony Davis. I like Westbrook over 13.5. I don't know why that's there. Really random. You see that?
Yeah, it's just on one book.
Yeah, it's super weird.
That's
anyway.
I would not take that. I do like the plus 1700. Would not take Russ to have 14 boards.
He's going to be in that second unit, and they're just going to be shooting up random shots. He's just going to be in the gym. He's in the Y League.
That's maybe I would take that if he was still on the Wizards and doing his triple double award breaking.
No, I like Anthony Davis. I don't hate Draymond. If I'm going to take Draymond, it might be rebounds. Looney's never been a fantastic rebounder.
Yeah. I know the value looks like it's there for Looney. I think Looney's one of those guys I want to talk about just for a second. Because I do think he is the preferred. He's the starting big. Yeah. But I think it's tougher because, the Lakers, depending on what the lineup looks like they will have an Anthony Davis on the floor. But does any part of you worried about Looney's consistent rotation? maybe not from a consistency standpoint, but from like a higher minute standpoint with what the Lakers might do rotationally with, you know, some of the guys who are healthy now. You know, you've got the cum bucket, you've got
excuse me,
sorry, Kuminga. You've got
that was not. I don't know. I think
it's more of, I think it's more of a later in the season thing than it is a like tonight thing. But I think it's one of those things where like you look at this and you go, Kevin Looney, 6.5 boards, the value's there, hammer it. I'm not like in love with it. He's not the greatest.
Yeah. There's no need for, like, I think there's just so many other plays where I feel better about the consistent usage and minutes. But for Looney, I'm not like worried that he's not going to play. I think even if the Lakers go small ball, I think Looney could still play small ball. He's pretty fluid big, and he's earned his stripes from last year, so I don't think he's going to sit him even if like Kuminga plays or if Wiseman's healthy. You know, so I definitely think it's a long-term thing to look out for. But for tonight,
he's the most likely to be kind of like phased out in those situations, like of the starting five. But I agree that I don't think it's super likely. I just think that I just wanted to call it out just because I think that might be a popular prop tonight. I think a lot of people will like Looney rebounds, just kind of in anticipation of everything.
It's just it's just way too hit or miss for me. I think again, I would much rather, put my money into stuff that's more consistent usage and more predictable usage.
All right, you always got to talk about made threes when you talk about Golden State Warriors. Steph, it is a higher line. You've got 4 flat on underdog. Obviously the value's on the over at 3.5. It's tough because obviously Steph had some monster games in the playoffs, but last season overall was one of Steph's like lowest efficiency years from 3. Yep. And I think the volume can still be there, right? I mean, it just never shocks you if Steph shoots 12 threes, right? That's just not a surprise. So I think the volume will be there for him to be able to hit it, but I don't know if I feel great betting on Steph to make 5 threes for me to hit a prop,
Yeah, I agree. And I want to get this out there before, the entire season starts, and this goes for the rest of the season. If we don't like Curry's 3-point prop, that does not mean take the under. Okay, this is the greatest point shooter of all time. Yeah. Never take the under. I don't care if it's 6.5. Just if it's not great value, do not take the under. Even if it is amazing value, it's just
right.
Why would you do that to yourself? It's it's the best shooter of all time,
especially an underdog too, because obviously you're the under at 3.5. The value's not there at all. So if you're looking at under 4, okay, yes, you luck out on a push. You're relying on Steph to only make 3. It's just that I think the line is just kind of tough. I see what's up. Jeremy in the chat says he likes AD's 3-point prop. I
don't hate it.
Not an underdog, but on other books you've got over just for him to hit one. I think as far as to hit 1 3-pointer is concerned, compared to most guys, I do like it. Right, compared to when DeMars were on the books, and you've got Draymond here, but obviously that's a little bit correlated with the odds that you're getting. But yeah, I don't hate that one. Any other guys kind of jump out to you? You've got Clay at 2.5, but as far as underdogs concerned, we're just seeing LeBron.
Yeah, LeBron's another one that's just I would rather go almost anywhere else on his stat sheet than the threes.
Yeah.
He's gotten better and he's not terrible, but it's what are we doing? 2.5 for LeBron? Why aren't we doing?
Yeah, and it's if LeBron hits 3 threes, I feel I know it doesn't correlate perfectly, but if I'm getting 3+ threes from LeBron, I just kind of look at points or PRA, and it's just not something I'd super rely on. All right, I guess kind of before we close out here, give me your favorite from this game. And then we'll just kind of recap our 3 favorites.
My favorite's probably LeBron assists. I like LeBron assists a lot. If you can get it at 5.5, if you get it at 6, I still like it over. I think him to get 7 or more tonight. So I like LeBron assists the most.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I think there's a lot more things I like, which is kind of funny, right? Because the Celtics Sixers game's a lower total. But there's a couple other assist props that I like a decent amount more. Yeah, I think I like that one as well. I don't think there's too much I love in this game. I think from a points perspective, I do like AD. Um,
Yep. That was another one that I was thinking of as well.
at kind of his 23 and a half, even at 24 and a half. I know it's the line on underdog. I still kind of like that if I was going to pick one. We talked about that one being one of those like doesn't look like amazing value, but we still kind of lean the over. But yeah, I think going back to the Sixers Celtics are kind of two big one were the big man assists, which is kind of funny, but I think it just kind of makes sense. Horford over 2.5, and Embiid. Oh, where's Joel? Oh, it's right there.
He was at
Embiid's got the 3 flat, which is really nice.
yeah.
And I know like
Yeah, like,
you don't want to like obviously all the values on the under at 3.5. Like that just is how like push lines work. So yeah, I feel pretty good about those. And yeah, Embiid, like we talked about, a little bit of a nod to the Horford matchup. And I think Embiid as a player too. I know it kind of feels weird to be like, oh, developing, but like I think Embiid would not surprise me if this is one of his better seasons from an assist standpoint overall. I think that's what they want more from him offensively. Obviously, he's still going to have monster scoring games, but would not surprise me if Embiid has a better assist year with like the Maxi emergence. You've got 3-and-D Tucker. You're playing with James Harden. So, yeah, I like it a lot. And as much he's going to have the ball in his hands, that's the big thing with Embiid for sure.
Yeah.
But all right, appreciate you guys checking out. Good luck on any kind of props tonight. Good luck in your fantasy leagues.
Yep.
Looking forward to it, and we will see you next one. We're gonna do some, recap streams for some of the slates. After like a day or two on the main fantasy NBA channel. If you're not on that, but once again, if you're not on Underdog, see the ticker down there. Use code Canyon. It's in the description. CANYON. You've deposited at least $10. You get a 100% deposit match up to $100. You can play some of these props we talked about. What we'll be playing tonight. Good luck. Peace out.